Oh, I gotta, here's your mouse. Okay, so I gotta share my screen, so it's not. Oops. Since we get it up and going. No, not yet. But anyway, while we're kind of getting this going, I'm not here to sell my my computer software. And I'm just I want to, you know, give everybody some idea of what I've personally gone through over the last, I even hate to say it, like 44 years of selling software, writing software, and it hasn't been my main job. Like my bio said, I worked in construction, I taught and stuff like that. So it was a good, excellent little side hobby that I was doing. And okay, there we go. So so this is kind of basically, it's a PowerPoint demonstration with some live action a little later on. I'm going to open up Xcode, show a little bit of Xcode. I'm not going to go into deep programming and stuff like that. I just want to kind of give you a good idea, overview of, the nice things that I like about Apple and using Xcode, and kind of showing the whole scenario. So these are the topics: a brief background, selling my software, shareware and freeware, selling software in a commercial market. I did that for a while, licensing the software to a pretty large kind of a company, and then selling my apps on the App Store. So this is my background. We already kind of talked about that. This is the construction estimation program. That's been kind of like my main program that I've been selling for the last 40 years, crazy as it may seem. And I'm still selling it. And I just can't believe, I'm still doing that thing. So anyway, so I started programming on my dad's pet computer. I don't know how many, that's in the museum somewhere along the line. And I really kind of liked that. That was, a basic, learning basic language and stuff. And then I bought an Atari, 400 computer and started programming basic in there a little bit. And so that's kind of what got me going a little bit. Then I ended up buying an Atari ST computer, and I learned, that's where I started learning C. And that was really fun. We used to have, the computer clubs where everybody go there, if you had an Atari computer, you'd show up there, would bring your computers and, show off the stuff and talk about it, kind of like what we're doing here, but it's more specific for, maybe each individual computer. Also during that time, I bought an IBM PC Junior, dinked around with that for a while. I bought Turbo C, trying to figure out what I kind of really wanted to do when I grow up. Then of course, eventually, I bought an AMD, 386, with Windows 3.1 and 3. I also did some programming on the Palm handheld. I wrote my construction program on that too. So one of the first programs I ever wrote was on the Atari 400. It was called Troubleshooter, and it was on a little cassette. You pop it in the cassette, and as the program was loading into the computer, it also played sounds about starting a car. And the idea was to kind of help you how you get your car started. If one morning you wake up and you try to start your car and it's going, no, well, is it a starter? Is it a generator? Is it a battery? What is it? So that was a little program that I wrote. I spent $300 to advertise it. So now remember this back in the 1979, I guess it was. I sold $50 worth of programs. Oh, well, that's the way it goes. But then I transitioned into the Atari ST, and I liked the Atari ST because I couldn't afford a Mac at the time. And the Atari had, you could have a monochrome monitor and a color monitor side by side if you want, so you can kind of do both. And I bought a program, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a program in C. And I started programming more and more. And since construction is my background, I decided to write an easy to use construction estimation program. And I'm still, and that's the one up on the left over there. And I still have that same format after all these years. Now my program is not super high tech, where big businesses are going to run out and use my program. The main object of my program was something very easy to use. So if you're going to pour a concrete slab, what's the length, what's the depth, how long is it, how wide is it, and you could instantly get a little answer. A lot of the estimating programs are very complicated a lot of times, and you have to go put in a whole bunch of information just to get a simple little answer. Well, I wanted to bypass that. If you're going to cut rafters, how long should the rafter be? If you're going to lay some blocks, how many blocks do you need? So that was the idea of my program. And I sent it out as shareware. And back in those days, everything was off of bulletin boards. So you'd have a little, I could upload my program to a bulletin board. I'd go on to Genie, CompuServe, and you could download load the program from there. And I gave it away for free, but the catch was, if you like the program, send me $15. If you send me $15, I'll send you the latest version, and also send you a instruction booklet. So over the few years, I made probably $1,500, maybe a little bit more here and there, on that. So as I could see, that was a useful program. People really liked it. So I thought, well, maybe I should, go into the MS-DOS world at the time. No Windows at that time. So I bought Turbo-C. And with Turbo-C, I was able to program my program. There was no mouse at the time. It was all keyboard. You had the up and down arrow keys to choose what you wanted to do. But that was actually working pretty good. So, and also at that time I went through and I gave it out shareware. They had lots of companies that were distributing your shareware if they kind of liked it. And so these are a couple examples. There's this one, I'd give it to them and they'd package it all up. I didn't have to pay for any of that stuff. And they would, send it out. And I started to get some decent money coming from, people. I'd get checks from around the world, sometimes, send me $15, $20, a shareware. And then also like a little later on, this other one at the bottom, that was, pretty popular. So if they had sent me $25, then I'd send them another version of it and a disc. Well, and so as I saw that this was working pretty good, it was supplemental income. So I went through and I paid a commercial artist to design the box. That's a box up on the left-hand side. So I paid him to design that. He did a really good job, and I had 500 boxes made, and it cost like $2,000 to have all these boxes made. And I packaged it. I did all that stuff myself, and then I went to some home shows, and I would sell that. And so progressively after a while, it was I might make anywhere from $1,000 a month, to maybe $1,500 a month, ups and downs. It is kind of weather related, crazy as it is, but in the summertime, that's the time you think most people would buy it, but that's when they're out there working. So they'd buy it more in the wintertime, because they're at home, there's snow and stuff like that. But as I was selling this, and also through my shareware, this company, Easy Legal, they contacted me and they said, "Hey, we like your software. We'll distribute it for you," and a non-exclusive relationship, that we had. So basically, they would sell the package for $30. Okay, and my cost was Well, no, that was my commercial sales. So I'd sell it for $30 and it cost me $5 for a booklet and $4 for shipping. So I was making like $20 for each copy that I sold. And that's when Easy Legal kind of approached me. And then also, and I'll go into a little bit more on the next slide, talking about comparing the numbers and stuff like that. But also I made a version for the Palm handheld, which they don't even make that anymore. That's like way gone. So let's look at the numbers, because I've had a lot of people say, you know, you're selling your software on Apple, you know, they're ripping you off. They're getting 30% of the sales. You know, that's terrible. You should get more than that, you know. But let's looking at the numbers, you can see, well, that's actually, you know, pretty decent. So a shareware, my cost was, like I said, $5 for the booklet. A net maybe $20. I can make anywhere from $600 to $800 a month. Okay. The non-shareware version, same type of thing. I'd sell the package for $30, $5 to package it, and you know, and so maybe I was making $20. You know, but I wasn't selling thousands and thousands. I was selling, you know, in the hundreds. You know, now Easy Legal Software, like I said, they approached me non-exclusive agreement. So I'd get 10% of the sales. So that sounds fantastic. Oh, I get 10%. 10% of, you know, $30 is $3. Well, not really. You know, that's what you like to do. So at the stores, they would sell it for $30. Okay, but Easy Legal would have to wholesale it to the stores, and they'd wholesale it anywhere from 40 to 60% off, because they have to make, you know, the money. So then I'd get around $1.20 for each copy sold. And also, and that was netting anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month additional income. So that was kind of nice. And that lasted probably for 7 years or so. Finally, Easy Legal, I think, went out of business or so. Hopefully not because of me, but who knows? I don't think so. But so that, and they took care of all the sales. They had the promotions and stuff. And an interesting thing, they would call me and they'd say, Mike, you know, I don't know if it shows it on the next, maybe on the next screen, but let me shoot down to the Apple store. So Apple gets 30% commission. And for about 2 years ago, they even reduced it down to 15% because they were giving things were a little slow during COVID. So they'd say, okay, we're not going to take 30%, we'll just take 15%. And of course that went away a little, well, after that. But so now if I sell my construction program for $2, I'm getting $1.40. So it's kind of crazy on how, but I don't have to do any sales. They take care of it all for me. So let's see. So I missed the point I wanted to talk about, but I'll probably remember it in a few minutes. Okay, so let's take a look at. I've been doing my stuff on, you know, for Apple quite a bit, and one of the reasons why I switched over to Apple was because, like I said, through the, you know, marketplace. I had an iPhone. It was easy for me to. You know, I thought it'd be, you know, really nice to pull out your iPhone and you can do my construction estimation program on your iPhone, carry that. Contractors would use it. You got to estimate something so they can just put in the numbers, and, or a carpenter and all that stuff. So, so that's one reason why I kind of switched over from Windows and that into more of the Apple, the world. And it's, but so one of the main things you got to do if you're thinking about making an app or a program, you got to figure out, you know, what device do you want it to run on? If you want it to run on Apple, then you're pretty much, you know, stuck. You got to work with Apple and the Apple world and that, and they have all their rules and regulations, and it can be just a total pain in the butt to do. But on the other hand, it's very satisfying. You know, if you're going to do an Android phone, for a while there, I wrote it out, my program on the Android. The problem I was having with Android is they got so many different devices, so many different screen sizes, so many different, you know, variables in there, and you're trying to keep up with how do I make my phone work on this, Samsung? How do I make it work on this? And if they're not, like Barnes and Noble sold, they had a Nook for a while that they were selling, and how do I make it to work on that? And so it get really, difficult. And then in the programming world, each programming language would have, their little segments that you could buy. Well, in order to make it run, you got to go buy this additional, software program to embed into your software to make it work. And so that worked for a while, but then they'd change it, or maybe Apple would say, no, you can't use that anymore, or Android. So it'd get really kind of confusing. So I thought, well, maybe I'm just going to switch just completely over and just go strictly with Apple and just deal with their stuff instead of trying to appease everybody, So, and then also on your app. So, just because you program on the Apple or the Xcode, you don't have to send it to the App Store. You can use it all for in-house if you want. For your own personal use, that's one option. I've written many apps that is just for in-house use. I volunteered at a local hospital here in town for a while, and I helped them out. I'll show you a little bit on a program that I wrote for them specifically, and I'll get into that. They were I get it almost all ready to go, and then they had a change of management. So anyway, but I'll talk about that. But so on the App Store, so you got to pay $99 a year to join the App Store. I mean, to join, for Apple and to become a developer. Now, Android Studio, I think it's just a $25 one-time registration fee, and then you can start selling your stuff on there. Amazon, I've sold some of my software, my construction program for Windows off of Amazon. I never really promoted it a whole lot, but I was selling it through there. And then also on your website. So on your website, I have links to go to the different, if you want to get my construction program, you can go to the different sites there. So making your app. So, what's a good way to do it? Do you want to spend the time and learn programming, or do you want to try to buy off the shelf? Now there's so many of these, things out there that they advertise easy to use. We'll make your program for you or your app for you. Just do this, or you can download their example and you have to conform to how they want you to make the app or but that's can be kind of confining. If you do it yourself, then you can pretty much create anything you want. And there's a lot of help out there, and you can, specifically design your app to do certain things. And I'll show that some of their, anyway. So, do you want to learn C, Object-C, Swift, Java, there's all sorts of languages out there. And, I've done BASIC, I've done C, Object-C quite a bit. I did some Java, and I did lots of, let's see, what was it? Visual Basic. That's where I wrote my Windows program. It's all in Visual Basic, and I use that quite a bit. I really like that. So building an app, the pros, if you use an app building program, you don't need to learn a computer language. You have to learn their software on how to create this. And then you're kind of limited to, can you import a picture? Can you export a picture? Can you put dots in different places or whatever, and then they have lots of pre-made templates, for that. And they have a drag and drop interface. And you can just Google that, on Google, just type in, I want to build an app or use an app program, and you can look at all their stuff. And a lot of times they'll have, a monthly fee or a yearly fee. But you don't have the flexibility to kind of make anything you want. So now in the Apple world, there's all sorts of things, you're pretty much going to have to use Xcode in order to create your app and get it off to Apple. And you can use different programs that will work with Xcode, and then to kind of shoot it off, using Xcode to kind of submit it to Apple. I used a program that's called Game Salad, and that's still out there, and it's a program to make games. And once you use their program, then you can send it off to Apple, and they can review it and take a look at it. There's all sorts of other ones. There's Appcode. It's for mobile development. Code Runner, Flutter, Build Fire, all sorts of different apps out there, programs to help you create these things. But if you want to really kind of do it yourself, programming it the hard way is sometimes really easy to do. So Xcode is a development program for the Mac OS, and it's mainly used to make apps and Mac OS programs. So Xcode accepts many code in different languages, like I said, C, Object-C, Java, Swift, Python. And so this is kind of showing some little areas on Xcode, and I will go into that just briefly to kind of show you what you can do. Now, after you've created your app or your program, then you've got to submit it through Xcode, and you got to submit it to Apple, and they have a verification program where you submit it, and then they'll come back and say, "Oh, you're missing this, you're missing these items, you're not doing this right," and then it gets rejected even before you submit it off to Apple into the App Store. So there's a lot of little kind of crazy things that they make you do, and I have like, geez, got almost 20 apps that I've written and have published and it's gone through the App Store. And to me, it's almost always a puzzle every time I do it. They come out with so many new acronyms and this and that and steps you got to do. And you're just going, geez, thank God there's the internet. I can Google some of these things that they want you to do. And it just gets totally nuts. Way back, one of the apps I did, as you can kind of see, it's a long time ago. I did this on Game Salad. It's a U.S. president. It was between Obama and I can't, the other guy there, so it's been interesting, and it's been also pretty much of a challenge in order to do that. Now, and then on the App Store, once you do get it to the App Store, then they give you a lot of tools, so you can kind of take a look at. I guess my mouse is showing. Okay, so you look up in here. And so I can see, my sales, my daily sales on it. I can see how many people have downloaded it. I can see how much money I've made. You can do that daily if you want to. All sorts of options on it. And then when you go to you have to kind of set up. They make it really difficult to do, but it's fun, I guess. Once you get onto the App Store and you're a developer, then you have to identify, what your app's going to be, what type of information is on it. You got to put in, like here at the bottom, like this is one that I did. It's called Your Teeth. So you have to put in images of your app, so people can kind of see it when they go to the App Store, they look at it. And now they kind of really want you to also include a video of your app working. So you got to go through and, produce a little video in order to make it, so there's all these things they really like you to do. Now, I mentioned briefly about in-house use. So I was volunteering at the hospital here. And one of the problems that they had, and this is an advantage of by programming it yourself versus trying to go to a CAN program, they had at the hospital, they have over 900 exit lights, all these little exit lights, and each exit light has a barcode on it. And every month, the maintenance guys have to go through and they have to read the barcode and put it into their laptop, and then answer, for their, showing that they've checked this all off, and that's on their in-house computer system, for the maintenance on it. Well, part of the problem that they were having is And it's like this one here. The barcode is so small up in there. And when they printed out the barcodes, they made them small and the numbers. So a lot of times the guys would have to come over and get a ladder or so, and they'd look up in there and try to get that number. Then they'd come on over and then put that in the computer. And it's like, geez, this is crazy. So as an example, I went through and I wrote a little program. This is almost it. I can't really show you the full program because I can't show you their floor plan of the hospital. That's kind of going out of realm. But so this is an example. So they'd have all these lights, and so I would place all these little blue dots at the locations of the exit lights. And so then now what the engineer would do, he could just walk down the hallway and see, okay, it's working, and he could click on it, and so it changed a different color, and it also showed the barcode because I put in all the barcode numbers into it, so you could easily just walk through and, okay, that one's working over there, this one's working over here, and so it made it a lot easier. And when you figure that they had over 900 lights and they have to do that every month, it's a lot of work, and you can't even see it. So I spent, almost 8 or 9 months programming this because they had 8 floors. And I was just volunteering to do this. So I spent all this time making this for them. And it was, the volunteer association was going to buy everybody laptop or iPads so they could use this and all this stuff. So I got everything almost all done, ready to go. And then they had a change of management. And they said, that's nice. We like this, but okay, it's not in our future. So I said, okay, so what do you do? So it's like, okay, well, either I can get mad or say, but I enjoyed programming. So then I thought, okay, well, let me go through and take my program that I spent all this time on, and I made it so then anybody could anybody can add those lights. Because before I was the only one that could put in all the locations of the lights and all that stuff. But once the app was made for each floor, then it was out of my hands, and they could do it, but they still kind of needed me to change it a little bit. But so I took that and I said, okay, well, I'll change my program around to make it so that anybody can use it. So now you could load up any program and any image you want, like there's a fire truck over here. So you could load up the image of the fire truck, and then the fireman could go through and he could just place the circles wherever he wants and kind of use it. So I just got that up on the App Store to start selling it and stuff like that. So this is like one of the pages on my website. So I'm just talking about this new type of checklist, preventive maintenance checklist, that you can download. And I'm not asking, I got like 4 versions of it, I think one of them's like $4. Another one's, I think the one that does 100 images or so is like $8, nothing really big, but I enjoy doing it. So it's okay. Now some of the development tools that I've been using to kind of create this stuff, as an independent developer, it's really helpful if you can code, and that's kind of handy. If you're a single developer, you got to be a graphics artist, I call it a digital image manipulator. So I can take images and I can change them and modify them to the way I want them to work. Music, you can, so some of these things that are really, useful for you to do. Now, some of the tools I use, so like I said, I'm not an artist, and there's many times I need a drawing or cartoon for an app that I'm making or a program. So like the little boy on the left-hand side, so it's on a game that I made, a child's game. I used him for that, and I also used him on another program I wrote. This guy is an auto mechanic here. He's on this other program that I wrote. So what I did is I went to Fiverr, and it's a website, and you just type in, graphics artist or a cartoon drawing. And the nice thing is then they would show you Oops. Okay. So this is from Fiverr. So you can look at it and say, okay, this guy can draw a cute monster and cartoons for $10. I can do it for $25, or you can negotiate with them. And the reason why I use these guys quite a bit is because it's not copyrighted. If you go onto the web and you download an image and say, oh, that's really great, I love this cartoon, but if it's copyrighted, then you're, violating the copyright code. And so you'd have to then, contact the artist that drew it, how much is it and all that stuff. Well, if you go to Fiverr, if you can send them an example. I want a guy that's holding a wrench. So I send that to him, and, I pay him off. And a lot of times they're, other different countries, but they understand that they're giving you so you can legally use their cartoons or your images on your programs. So that's one tool I've been using quite a bit, and it's worked actually really pretty good. Now, when I talk about a digital image manipulator, so, there's different types. There's the vector drawing and there's a bitmap drawing. Okay. So with these, you can kind of, make it a better clarity. The vector is really nice. Bitmap. Now, vector, one of the programs I use for vector drawing quite a bit is OpenOffice. They have an excellent drawing they have, a presentation program. It's like PowerPoint. They have, a text writer, and it's all free. And they have an excellent drawing program where it's all vector based. So once you draw something on their drawing program, then you can export it as either another vector image. They give you like 20 different options on how to, a PNG, a JPEG, or whatever you want. So you can use that, quite a bit to import into your programs. And then one of the things that you're going to have to do is when you go to the App Store and you're going to submit your apps, and for the App Store, they want them in certain sizes, 1020 by 28 or whatever, and so you've got to configure all your pictures, your screenshots that you have. You got to configure that to whatever they want on the App Store. So I use a program. It's called Resize It. It's like $2, and you just do that on your phone, and you can resize the images to whatever size you need in order to submit it to the App Store. Like I said earlier, OpenOffice is really a great tool to use. I use that all the time. So now music, even though maybe you're not going to use a lot of music, and I had a couple of games where I needed some music. And so what do you do for some music or so? Well, I just go to, there's lots of websites out there that you can buy, music that they have. And, for $5, $10, $20 or whatever, you can listen to some examples. So I'll buy, some examples. So it's all royalty free. So I don't have to worry about any, legitimacy. I can't even pronounce that. And especially when you start selling it on Apple, if you're trying to sell anything that's pirated, they're going to knock you, they're going to reject it. Now, also programming code. It seems like I use Fiverr a lot, but I do. You can't be fluent in all languages, just maybe unless you're like a super genius. And I'm not that there. I'm not even close to it. So I'll be programming along, and I'll say, geez, like I worked for, I bet you I probably put in 50 or 60 hours trying to get one function to work on this one program, and I just could not get it to work. And I was just stuck. And I said, if I can't get this to work, then my program is going to be useless. So then I went on to Fiverr. I looked up, programming in Obj-C, and I located a guy, and I sent him an example, and he says, okay, for $70, this will come out the way you want it. And so I paid the $70 because I just got done spending, hours and hours trying to get the damn thing working. I just could not. So it was really handy, and you just cannot know everything. Now, one of the nice things about Xcode that you can do, and I'll show you in just a few minutes or so, is you can prototype a lot of your stuff. So maybe you have an idea and say, hey, this is a great idea for an app. I want to make this app. And how should I do this? How should I lay this out? All out. Well, with Xcode, and Xcode is free to download. It's big. It's like 7 gigabytes. But it's free. You can download it. You don't have to be a developer to use it. You don't have to be a developer to run the simulator. You can just run that, and the only time you have to be a developer is if you're going to sell it to, on the App Store. Like the apps that I made for the hospital, you don't have to be a developer, and I would have to personally go over and get all of their iPads or whatever is going to install it, and then I could share it and share it onto their iPad or iPhone on that, and they could use it. So that's really, a very handy thing about Xcode. So now, so let's say you get your app created and all done and you're ready to go. So you got to build it. And so they give you all these different options. And like I said, we'll go into this live, give you all these different options on how do you want to send it out to the simulator, iPhones, because you cannot own all the different devices Apple makes. It break you. So their simulators work really, really good, and I'll show you that. And then after you've chosen what it is and it seems to work, and you say, hey, I've got my little app or my program all ready to go. I'm going to submit it to Apple. I'm going to be a millionaire. Well, then you press, you have to validate it. So now this is where you got to be a developer. And like I said, the developer is only $99 a year. It's not too bad. So you press development to validate your app. And so it goes to Apple. They have their little computer look at it and say, oh, you're missing these 10 different things. You got to change this. You got to add this things. Then you end up looking on the the web to figure out, well, what the heck are they talking about? I mean, and I swear to God, every time I do this, there's always something new that pops up. Just when I think I've got it all figured out, they throw in something else. They say, okay, now you got to do this, you got to do that. So sometimes it can take, a couple of weeks to finally get your app to be submitted to the App Store. Now, just because it goes to the App Store doesn't mean now it's out there ready to sell. So you get it out to the App Store. And once you get it out to the App Store, now so here you got to go through and you got to put in, so all the devices that you're going to use. And so they've made it a little bit easier over the last few years, but you still have to kind of confirm. So this is like my construction program. So you got to take your screenshots and put it out there so everybody can kind of view what you got and what they're going to look at. So once you get that information in there, then you got to answer all their questions. And then you're ready to go and say, okay, I've done everything. I'm going to shoot this off to them and I'm all ready to go. Well, okay, well, then you go through the rejection of your app. So is the app a copy of another app? Okay. Hardware and software are not compatible. So maybe, what you've worked on your thing, it's just not actually working on a real device. So you should try to, but the simulators are really, really pretty good. But even still though, maybe the screen is off a little bit or so, you don't have a privacy policy. You got to put in all these different policies. Let's see, bugs and crashes, does it take a long time to load? Are there broken links in your app if you have that? Your app appears to be unfinished, incomplete or inaccurate metadata, low quality UI. Okay, well, so some of my rejections are, one of them was, we found that the usefulness of your app is limited by the minimum amount of context or features that it includes. So, and then they give you, at least this person gave you an idea. So, well, we encourage you to review your app concepts and incorporate different contents and features that are compliance with the app review guidelines. So I'm looking at this and, it's like, I don't even think this reviewer looked at my app. There's probably 1,000 reviewers out there, that Apple hires and stuff like that to do it. And some of them from all different countries of the world. And they're all looking at different things. And like this one looked at it and says, well, it's there's no use to it. And that's the program that I wrote for like the hospital showing, the exit lights and all this stuff. I said, well, it's not, I told them, I said, it's not a game. This is a useful program that can be used. And so then they reject it and come back and say, okay, well, send us some more information on it. So I'd send that to them. So finally, you'd get maybe a different reviewer. You'd say, I want a different reviewer to look my app. This is crazy. And so they'd send it off to another, and they'd say, okay, that's fine. And like when I sent off 2 of them, I almost did the exact same thing. And one of them said, no problem at all. They did it right away. The next one, it took me 3 weeks to get it approved by Apple. And they'll reject you sometimes. They're not doing it as much now, but if they didn't like the way your buttons looked on the, not physical buttons, but, on your app, whatever you're using rounded rectangles. You should use square rectangle, or you shouldn't use any rectangles at all. You should do this. And that just kind of nuts. And then another one, just, we noticed that your app's main functionality is to market your services. Well, I'm not trying to sell my services. I'm just, this is just an app, just the user or not. I'm not trying to. So then I argued that a little bit, and then finally after, so when I'm kind of making a long story longer, but I'll really work on it. It's just because you think you got it ready to go and you send it off, expect to take, it could take a couple of weeks to get it going. And then finally you get the notification says it's been accepted. And then you go, oh, thank God. Now it goes on to the App Store. And then from there you kind of, okay. So now I'm going to shoot into Xcode a little bit. How's the time going? Oh, okay. Well, okay. So this is a program. I think I told you at the very beginning, I wrote a program called Troubleshooter. Is how to get your car started and all that stuff. And so a few years ago, I thought, maybe I should look into that and change that and make that for the iPhone, because it could be, or the iPad. So I went through it and I programmed it all, changed it all. And so this is kind of showing a little bit of Xcode. So you can open up, you have all these different screens and windows, and you connect all of these. You might have your main menu, and then you can, if you want to open up another window, then you can make a connection from that window. So graphically, you kind of make all these things and to see how they're working. And then you have to, once you graphically make it, then you can add your written code to it. So I'll show you this one really quick. And one thing they started doing now with the newer MacBooks, they're all with the M chips, so it allows you to, even if you write it for an iPhone or an iPad, you can run it on a MacBook. So let me see. I got this. So iPhone 15. So I'll start up one of their emulators or simulators. And you can resize that however you want. Oh, let me cover my wife. There. Okay. So it's and once you get one of them up and going, now he doesn't.
Let's get going.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Mechanic Bob. Let's get going.
Mhm.
Hi, this is the main menu. Click on any engine type to see how it works.
So let's see, you go to four-stroke engine. Okay, a little animation there. Okay, maybe a Wankel engine. you can go to echo is. So this is where like you're starting to fix your, this is just an example. Okay. So you try to start. So anyway, okay, let me shut that off here. So I'm just showing some animation that you can do, that I've done and stuff. And so it's a build upon my troubleshooter that didn't make any money. I lost money. This one has been okay. Now on all my different apps, I go around and sometimes, I might start them off at a higher value, and then if I see that they're not selling, then I'll lower them down. If I see maybe in the winter time, they're not selling, I can change, you can change the price up and down as much as you want, which is kind of handy in a way. I have a couple apps out there. Well, they're not apps now. They're my construction program on the Mac. And so you can programming and OS X, and that's for the Mac, or for the iOS for the iPhone, iPad, and that's so with Xcode you can kind of, there's some differences between Obj-C in the Mac OS X versus the iOS, but they're not too bad, but you're still some learning curve on it. So you can also now, I can take this and I can tell it to maybe do it into a mini iPad. So it'll load up, there's a little mini iPad. Now, the way I wrote this program is because so it works on iPad and also on a phone. And also if you have an M3 or an M1 computer, you can also work it on, use it on the computer itself. So, but you do have to go through and change the way you set up. Like right now, this is set up for the, I think it's on iPhone, this display here. So anyway, so that's one nice thing that you can do, with the Xcode. Now let's go over to, let's make a really kind of a quick little, let me stop this. And so to create it, so we're going to create a new project. Okay. So they give you all these different options on what to do. If you want a document app, a game app, a playground. I've just mainly been doing apps. So I choose next. So I give it a name. Let's see. Let's give it a name. If you have a team, so if you sign up as a developer, then you got to go through and give a team. Is it you're just yourself, or do you want other people that's in your team access what you've written so they can, add to it or subtract to it, whatever you want. But just to play around, if you're just going to use it on your computer and you don't want to, you're not planning on selling it right away, you don't have to pretty much add a team or anything like that. Okay, and where does it want to save it to? Well, we're just going to save it to this one area I have. Okay, so now we've created this thing. Let me make my window a little bit smaller because I got so many windows open here. Oh, come here. Okay, so now if we look at how Xcode works off on this side, this is the code. That's where all the coding is at. And so then you over here in the middle, this is where you identify what do you want it to, what device do you want it to run on? So come on, let me close this thing here. So if you want it to run on the iPhone, you can just do that only. If you want it to run on the iPhone, iPad, and also the Mac, you can make it do all that stuff. So you can kind of set that all up. you can put down an app category. You don't have to fill this information out at the moment unless you're going to go to try to sell it. So you can just kind of do your basic stuff. So that's kind of setting up how you want your app to work and to look. Now let's go over to, so right now we have it set up for the iPhone 15. Now let's say if you just want to play around and maybe toy with developing an app. Excuse me, I keep getting some of this other stuff flying in here. So this is your basic iPhone. So now you come over here to, and let's add a label. So you just drag it and drop it. And you can put in, okay. So Mike's new app. Now I can place it wherever I want. I can change the size of it, bigger, smaller, however you want. Come back up here to the X up there where I'm at. Let's put in a button. So this is a filled button. Okay, let's put in some a text field. Okay. Now it's hard to see the text field, so I got to give it a background or so. So now it looks like, and then maybe I should put in a label. So this is where you can kind of select all the different items that you want to add to your app or your program. They give you lots of things. So you can make them, really fancy or just generic or whatever. But let's just go back up here and we're just making a very simple one. So let's put in a text. Oh, I have a text field. Let's put in a label. So you just drag it and drop it. Give the label a name. Okay. Now, okay, whoops, I can make the button any size. Now, early on, years ago, they didn't have as many options for the buttons. You only had a couple ideas for buttons. If you wanted to make a filled button like this, you had to create your own button to make it and all that stuff. But now they're getting a little bit more flexible on it, which is kind of nice that they're doing that. So now once we get some information in here, let's add a picture or so. So let's come over here and maybe you want to add a picture. Let's see, a scroll view, text view, image view. Just drag that and drop. Then you can load up a picture. If you want, you can put in any, oops, that's the wrong thing. I guess I don't have any images on my site right now, but it's easy to pop in a picture. That's how I did the animation with the engine working up and down. So I was doing page flip or image flipping with that. I'd load up, 10 different pictures and flip between them and all that stuff. But now, so once you get this kind of laid out the way you want, then one thing that you have to do is you've got to give each item a name or so. So we have to come over here and we got to go to the view. Oops. Oh, come on. Well, I got to, sorry about that. I got to expand my screen. Okay. Now I can put in, come on. Okay. Let me make this smaller a second. So it kind of depends on if you want to, I really spelled that right, but that's okay. So this is where you kind of initially set up. So you can just drag it over to here, and then you can give it a name, input one. Okay, and you tell it connect. Oh, I see. Whoops, I didn't. Sorry about that. You gotta make sure you put brackets in there. And you got too many. See, an Xcode tells you you made a mistake. Mike, you're a dummy, you made a mistake. So it's kind of nice. I get lots of those. Okay. See how well it's working now? Okay, well. See, that's the nice thing about a demonstration. Sometimes it never works that you want. Okay. I put all of this, making an app and everything, on a PDF file. So later on, after the presentation or so, if you want to download the PDF on how to make your basic app, you can do that. It's all on a PDF for you. So now I've identified that as a button. And so now you can go over to your M code, and then now you can tell the button what to do. So I got to come back over here a second. Now I have to drag this, and it creates okay, so see, now it's already set my code for me. So now I just have to put in information on what I want the button to do. Do I want it to add information from input one? Do I want it to subtract it? Whatever I want to do. So when I push the button, then it'll actually work. I'm not going to fill out this code because and that's one nice thing about Xcode is it does help you, input information as you're typing along. It'll give you the recommendations. We'll put this in, put that in. And if you're really fast at it, you can, program pretty good. What I usually end up doing is I come over here because I don't know, a lot of the stuff I know I've forgotten. So I have my little cheat sheets, and this is also on a PDF. I can, give it to you so you can kind of go through and I'll like, geez, how do I make this button disappear? How do I make it reappear? How do I do this and do that? Well, so then I can just come over here and I can, adding information to the screen. I mean, there's a couple options. You can go through a book and try to figure this all out. Takes you a while, or I've just over the years just kind of added these little cheat sheets and, how do I remove unwanted characters from a screen? How do I change the text on a button? So here you can just kind of cut, copy, and paste these things. So these are little things that I use quite a bit in order to help me program, because honestly, I just don't remember everything. I'm over the hill. So, okay, now let's see. We can test this thing. So let's just run it here. It's not going to do anything because I'm not adding code to it, but so it says it succeeded. Okay, see, so you can add, so it's really nice. You can go through and you can add in all sorts of stuff to make it work. Now, this is just one screen. So let's say, like I showed you earlier on that one, my auto mechanic Bob, I've got lots of screens on it, or so you'd come over here to come here. Okay. And you have to put in a view controller. Oops. Come on. So I got to put in a view controller, and they make all different types of view controllers if you want. So just drag it and drop it. Now I have another view controller. Now let's say if I want this button to go to this particular screen over here, let me throw in one little thing in here. Oops. Let's see. Okay, so now hide this. So now I just drag and drop, so I can just click on the button and I drag it over to this view controller screen and I can show it. And then maybe I better put another button to go back. So let me put another button here to go back. Now, I don't have to give these names like I showed a little earlier, unless I want the buttons to hide or to change their names. If you're just going to keep them the way they are, you don't have to put in the code. And so now I got to select another button, go back. So now let's run this thing. Okay. I want to replace what I did. Okay, so now we press this button. Now it goes to the next page. Now this one goes back. So that's one thing that I like about Xcode is that you can try all different things. If you have an idea, fill that thing all out, then you got to work on populating it with your code. And the code can get, kind of tricky, but it's just, for me, it's well worth it to try. So pretty much, any questions? What type of questions you got? Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, it usually takes me several months because first of all, I'm not doing it 8 hours a day full time. Now I'm retired, so I can spend more time on it. But my wife tells me things to do. I'm sorry. She gives me recommendations on things to do. So I throw that in there. It depends on what type of an app you want. This one app. Let me see if this one app I did. Because I had to put in so much, let's see, where did that thing go? Well, yeah, I was putting in a lot of stuff, scrolling the screen, importing the pictures and all that stuff. And so that would take a while to do. And so I'd go onto the internet a lot and, you can just type it in, and say, help me, or not help me, but, how do I do this and do that? And you get their answers, and sometimes they're very useful, and sometimes they're just junk. Sometimes they're just little pieces of a code that you can figure out how to do. So it can be anywhere, depends on how complicated your program is. Like I said, the one that I did for the hospital took me, initially probably took me a couple of months to get it to work good. And then I started to incorporate barcodes into it, as you could see, so they could read a little barcode. And so one thing that I did, so I bought like a little barcode scanner because they were trying to do this with their phone. And I know you can scan barcodes with your phone, but it's only good for, a foot or so maybe. And you're trying to take this thing and you just, it zooms in, and then by the time you get that zoomed in and it's blurry and it doesn't connect, or maybe if you go to some place in the hospital and it's not connecting right, then you're having all these problems. So what I did is I just, I made the app that had all the I found it's a barcode, what is it? I can't think of the word, character, set, for barcodes. And I think it was totally free. And so I just incorporated that into my program. And so then you could just use this little thing to read it. But still, this is a problem, because you can't, like trying to get that one. So then what I did is I made a stick about this long and I put this on the end of the stick, and I could hold the thing up there and I could scan it. And you can make this, because it's Bluetooth, so I can make this, fill in the information into my app, because I'd connect the iPhone or my iPad up to this. And so it was really streamlined. It worked really, pretty good. But so I don't know if that answered your question.
Choice of language.
Uh-huh.
Now you got Objective-C.
Right.
Just Objective-C and Swift, or is there actually a lot of other things?
I think you can use Python. I've used, early on, I was using this program called NS Basic. I think you can use Java, but, you know, reading on it and stuff like that, people, I think Java is maybe better for using websites and web pages and stuff like that. I think you can use it, but when I was programming some in Java, I had to go through a third-party software in order to get it to work, and I still had to use Xcode to get it out there to send it to you know, to Apple. And that was the problem I was having is because I was using a third-party software, then that third-party software might change, or maybe they'd go out of business. And then Apple would say, oh, well, now what do you do? And so I was getting very frustrated trying to use all these third-party things to make it work. That's when I said, forget it. I'm just going to talk the mother tongue, you know, just speak Apple to Apple, you know, and yes.
On the functionality of the app where you have dots on the diagram, like fire truck.
Okay, uh-huh.
On that, how does functionality work today? Meaning that, is it in a way where they tap on their tab, whether it's
Right.
dot, it brings up barcode, like as an image?
Yeah, it brings up the, it'll bring up the barcode image and then you can scan it from there. Let me see if I can pull that up here. I got so many windows open. Okay, let me come down to. Okay. Oops. You know what I have this set. This is on iPad. Okay. So so this is the program. So this is what I wrote so that anybody could use this program for, you know, for doing a checklist for anything. It doesn't have to be hospital lights. It can be anything. So what you do is, let's see if we put the edit on, so I can click on, like maybe if I need to move this little, is it showing? Yeah, okay. So maybe they have to check this tire over here, or you want to put that into a checklist, or it could be a floor plan. It could be maybe the city of Sarasota or whatever like that. And these are the areas that you want to go to. And so once you've set these locations, and that's the only thing that's a little tricky on this is you have to go through and you got to take each of these circles, you got to place them where you have to do. But once you do that, then it remembers where it's at. Well, yeah, what you can do, I don't have pinch and zoom on it because it was it was getting really, really complicated because I got a screen and then a scrolling bar on top of the screen. And then I'm trying to add zooming on top of everything. And it was just like, geez, so what I did was you can come over here and you could change the image size if you want it bigger. Okay, so you can make it bigger this way, and then it remembers whatever you do. You can also change the scrolling, you know, on it. So you can make it smaller, whatever you want. And then whatever you have it set at, then then it, obviously it remembers it. Then also you can. Oh yeah, it all, you can change the size of the dots from smaller to bigger if you want. It all, and it remembers exactly where you put it. Now you can show barcodes. So like here's the barcode of this one. So I can change this barcode. You don't have to use numbers. You can put in letters or so. You know, you can also make it so, you know, maybe each circle represents a fire extinguisher as an example. And then you can search up here. You can say, locate all the fire extinguishers, and then it'll shows all of those little things, you know. So
They can add dots on there is by adding a button to add a dot, and they have to use the directional thing to move the dot around.
yeah, so what you do is so you'd come over here to tools, and we want to here, let me go back. So add a circle. So it's, oh, well, you know, I have to erase everything and because I think I've maxed this one, but you can keep adding circles and then you got to move that circle to wherever you want it to. So you could start off in a clean slate with no circles and then you add a circle and you just move that to wherever you want. So I don't know if that makes any sense. Yeah. Yeah, you can click on it and then you can add information about that circle. Uh-huh. Okay, it starts, I'll have to show you. It starts, let me go to delete all. Okay, so all the circles go bye-bye. Okay. So here the circles are starting there. So now we want this circle, and so we click on that. You can move it faster. You know, I wish I could, maybe if I was a better programmer. Oh. Because I toyed with, it'd be nice to use your finger and move it to where you want it to go. But now your finger is, mine's fat. And especially like if you're doing a floor plan or something like that, or, you know, something, you want to get it exactly where you want to go. So then it's hard to do with your finger to get exactly where you want to go. So that's why I kind of opted to go with moving it this way. It's not the best way. Yeah, right. And then once you exit, it remembers, you know, wherever you place it, you can add information to that circle or whatever. It's just another way to kind of, yeah, I just couldn't think of a better, I mean, I really tried to figure out what, you know, one option was maybe to use the pencil. You know, app makes their little pencil and use that. But now if you do the pencil thing, now I've excluded a whole bunch of users that don't have pencils, you know, or on their iPhones. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Probably, I'm sure you could, if you're a better programmer than I am. You know, I have to work within my capabilities, and sometimes it's not that big. You know, yeah, it's just I just don't have that. I mean, I've tried. I thought, oh, let me try this and that, and it's like, well, okay, this is just not going to happen for me. Oh yeah, yeah. Any other questions? Okay.
Because I really like how you can build the stuff in Xcode, but what if I wanted to use my own text editor? Can you do that instead of coming, or I have to use a text editor?
Well, you could only use your text editor for the code, just to put in the code into, you know, like, but in the old years ago, Apple did not have the good interface where you could drag and drop it. You had to program it all by code. If you wanted this box to be over here, then you had to program it by hard coding it to make it go over there. And I do that on some of my like in this one app here, because I have it working for different, you know, iPads or iPhones and all this stuff. I programmed it in hard coding. So if you click on this, it reads the code and it makes that button go to this location. So you're pretty much stuck to having to use Xcode. But like you said, if you wrote up a lot of stuff, but then that gets really hard to do. If you write up a lot of stuff, you know, on your text editor and you want to then import it or copy it over to Xcode, then it's going to read all this stuff and it's going to give you lots of errors. And then you're trying to figure out, you know, all these errors, how does that thing work? So you can get, so I think building as you go works, you know, pretty good. Okay.
Xcode, so the Xcode part is the free part.
Yes.
So the only and you would actually have to pay, like you want to create the account when you actually want to.
Right. Yeah. As far as I know, that could change. Apple is notorious for changing your world. Why? You know, I just had a message this morning. It says they took some of my apps off the App Store because I didn't complete this one little documentation. So, oh geez, it went out of, I don't know, whatever timeline whatever it was. So then I logged in and I got it reactivated, but they always give you little surprises. It kind of keeps you going.
For a lot of people, the barrier is the download, right? We all need to install.
Uh-huh.
Do you think they intentionally, it's a conspiracy theory, or am I right? They intentionally delay development of the web-based apps? So because people have to go through the App Store. Same for me, for example, I do virtual reality, and there is a way to do through the web, web store, but it's just this infrastructure sucks so bad that we have to install them.
Yeah. Probably, I don't know, because I don't do that specifically, but I know, some of it is Apple does make it difficult for a lot of reasons. One is to protect your environment. Now, when I programmed a lot, for the Android and that, it's a free for all. They didn't care what you did, and you could put in malicious code if you wanted to, and then if somebody complained, then they would take it off. But Apple really kind of wants you to follow their little guidelines. So that's it's a hassle, but then in a way it does kind of protect you, on it. But they go through and they'll look at, they go every year or so, they'll run all these apps through their main computer and say, okay, this one's not, it's not up to the latest iOS. And every time you turn around, there's a new iOS version out there. And it's like, God, will you guys quit doing that? Or there's a new Xcode version out there. And it's like, God, now I got to learn something else. And
But they don't want to sit together and figure all this out, because now we're gonna lose all the revenue from the App Store. But this is the whole point. AOS, different devices, different size of things. The web is just the way to go in the future, if you like. If they would just invest.
Possibly, but the only problem with the web is that I can see for your app is then you're tied to it. Here, I don't need web. Once I've created my app or somebody buys it, they don't need to have access to the web or the internet. They can just use it. No, not everybody. There's like 3 people I know that don't. No, I'm just joking. Yeah.
But it's so then they might not even need internet. They can be on a very remote part, so you don't have service,
Yeah.
Then it's gonna work. And I guess it depends on that.
Yeah, and this is just, I was kind of showing you my history of what I've done. So it's been, like I said, an interesting ride. At first, I thought I was going to make a lot of money by, having, Easy Legal sell my software. And they did actually, really pretty good. I made some really good, and I'd make some, nice, $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 checks every once in a while, and I didn't have to do anything. But that's because they were selling a lot of them. And then one kind of crazy thing I thought with Easy Legal is, well, they distributed to Barnes and Nobles. They had it out to even Home Depot, tested it for a while. And Home Depot really liked it. It was out there for Home Depot just for a few months at a select store, but they took it off the market because Home Depot said people were stealing it. It was, back, this is 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they were stealing my program, and so Home Depot said, well, there's no good way that they could control it from people from stealing it. So they decided not to market my program through Easy Legal. So I thought that was kind of weird, but. Well, you go into Home Depot and say, oh, I like this. This is a nice, computer program. Let me take this thing. So they'd actually steal it from Home Depot, and, pardon? Well, this is, now you got to remember, this is 15 years ago. So you'd have a disc in there or a CD. I think Easy Legal was all CDs at that time. And so they have a, so it's actually steal a physical CD off it. That's the old days,
I would still books back in the point down.
Uh-huh.
Getting the work and what the IP number including pain, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing that I've heard talk about.
Okay.
Meaning
Okay.
that besides I think one of the things I'm doing all the research I've done, that's going to be the biggest pain point for the developer is the actual market. No matter how good or how bad your product is, to reach out to the target audience.
Okay.
All those things. I was curious to know the knowledge that you gained in the year you've done. If you were to sell your patch to the app, what else are you possibly doing that is either reaching out to clients that use your product in the past, or what other channels are you getting?
Well, okay, I have a website, so that's been very, very good. On the website, you can click on it, and then you can, it shows all my apps that you can buy and all that. So that's been, that's very useful. And so, but truthfully, I don't go out now and try to market it a whole lot. I've been, like this latest app that I was working on, this one here, I send out information to, different companies, hospital companies, that are using apps and stuff like that, a little PR information on it. So I try to do that. But mainly in the past, I did a lot of my marketing through the shareware and the free, and you can still do that on the Apple. A lot of my apps are free. And so you can download them and get them for free. And then in the app, sometimes I'll include information about, okay, if you want this to be improved, you can, buy this. Now, one thing I have not done is, gone as far as selling, what is that? I'm just trying to think of the word where you're selling all your stuff through your apps, through the App Store, different marketing ways. I just can't think of the word on it. I've lost it at someplace. Some back there. What's that? Well, yeah, right. Yeah, there you go. See, it's back. It's back. You found it. Yeah, in-app purchases. And so I just haven't done that because it's like, okay, and it's seasonal with me. It's not only the construction program, like during the Olympics, I hardly sold anything. Everybody, damn it, everybody was watching the Olympics, I guess, or something. Or in the wintertime, there's more, I sell more stuff sometimes in the wintertime. So, it's all just see things kind of go up and down. But
Okay. Fortunately.
okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, you have any questions? Well, thanks. I'm ready. Yeah, I'll go with you guys. Okay.
And Mike will answer more questions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.